what do I think about VRs, cortex, telltale signs? I think they are totally fabricated and they're liars. And plus, the whole thing is they're con artists, they're biased, and they have mistake of law and mistake of fact. I'll give you some examples. It has to be a controlled environment. Okay, in the home, and then whatever's going on is never a controlled environment. First of all, mistake of fact. They don't know about that person. They don't know if that person has Tourette syndrome or a tic, or if they have a muscle pain or cramp that when they bend there, they get that pain. They don't know that. They don't know if that person has just drank a huge cola and has to burp. They don't know if that person had a large meal and has to pee and poop. And that's why those, what they're doing happens. And yet they're calling those telltale signs. Not knowing it was because somebody had to take a shit. Okay, there. And then con artists. Okay, if you could read someone's mind, the mind is too complicated to get a factual reading. Okay, they're being con artists. They're only taking the con. And they're biased. They're already looking for something. That totally persecutes the person's life of everything they can do, them claiming that bias. And then they're con artists because they're not taking the they're not taking the contemplation. They're not taking the self-check morality. And then they're being con artists on that too. On the self-check. And then they're not taking into the years and decades, maybe decades upon decades of experiences that one person might think of, like thousands of thoughts in less than a second. They couldn't possibly know that. Okay? And then why that person is saying what. And then, there's just a fact of people with brain farts and an expectation of privacy. Were they really what they're thinking? Because they have freedom of thought. So they might blah, 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 they have guilty mind. In the USA, that's... Yeah, you're allowed to have guilty mind in the USA. That's mens rea. Now, actus reus, that's the criminal action. That accounts for mens rea, and it has to be double to be a crime in the USA. It can't be just mens rea and guilty mind. All right. But there is the fact of face-to-face. Face-to-face, you can tell some telltale signs of aggression, of happiness, and such. But, that's what they're exploiting. That's what they are using, the obvious. You can know when someone's mad versus happy. Maybe. You really don't know. They could be putting on a character act here, or bluffing, or this and that. It's true, when somebody says no, no means no, right? And you can tell if they're getting mad. That's fine to know, hey, I realize that person's mad. That's not what I'm talking about. That's what these con artists are exploiting, the obvious. And when they go into these cortex bullshit, that's where they're being con artists. They are framing people and being con artists.